Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Raw Prospect Podcast. This is the official mega preview of the 152nd Open Championship, the fourth and final major in the year in golf, which begins early tomorrow morning and runs through Sunday at Royal Troon in Scotland. And to do it with me here is Emmy Nixon. But before we get to Emmy, if you like what we do here, make sure you like and subscribe. Again, you can find us on YouTube under our live section, as most of the shows that we do here are live. Go check out Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports, where you can find all of your Longhorn content and other college sports content. And check out all our other episodes, including our NFL previews. Emmy Nixon, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Great intro as always. This is what I'm excited for. This course in particular, Royal Troon, it is very, very weather dependent. Last time around, Henrik Stenson won at a record-breaking 20 under par at the time, and it was just because whenever the wind isn't blowing and the conditions are fair, I guess, or calm, I guess. The course is very gettable when it's like that. The greens are pretty flat, and you can avoid these bunkers, and you're good to go at that point. But it's looking like it's going to be a rainy weekend, and to be honest, that is just the way we like it.
You kind of transitioned us perfectly into the first storyline I kind of wanted to talk about, which is this golf course at Royal Troon. You mentioned the 2016 Open Championship. The last time this tournament was here, it was that epic duel between Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson, a championship in which Henrik Stenson won to become the year's champion golfer. He wins the Claret Jug. Both of those guys that day went very low for that tournament, 20 under par and 17 under par respectively. However, the course was actually playing far tougher than that because no other players were within 11 shots of those two guys. So while it is a long but fairly straightforward course, if the conditions are right, it still can play very tough. I think one of the big things I'll be looking for this week, just in terms of on the course strategy, is you play tons of golf. I play some golf, not nearly as much as you. But in listening to some other previews this week for the Open Championship, I think getting off to a fast start on some of these scoreable par fours on the front nine is going to be key if you want to be in the red and potentially near the top of the leaderboard, positioning yourself well for the weekend. Because the back nine, from what I know, is much longer and can be a lot more nasty and not as favorable. I think the weather will play a factor. I think it's going to be somewhat chilly. And I think the forecast looks fairly dry tomorrow, but it could be wet and kind of windy throughout the week. So we'll see how that plays a factor. But I think getting off to a fast start is going to be a big deal. And then I'm interested to see, because we know, we've seen Open Championships at St. Andrews, was a course that kind of rewards distance, the long drives. I'm interested to see whether or not guys like Bryson DeChambeau, who I would argue, even though Scotty Scheffler, I think, is having the best season top to bottom, Bryson DeChambeau might be having the best major championship season. I wonder if accuracy is going to be maybe a little bit more valued than distance at this particular golf course this week. We'll see how that comes into play. But those are the kind of things I'm watching in terms of Royal Troon this week. Is there anything else you want to add there? And I have a couple other storylines we can jump into before our player pool draft.
Yeah, historically, Bryson has not done well in the Open,
Yep.
and it's because these courses, you end up in these bunkers, and it's just for a penalty. Like there's no getting around it. Like there's no amount of power you can have to get out of that bunker and get it on the green. Like you're chipping sideways every time, and I think it is interesting that dynamic is definitely interesting to me. I think if I were to predict the type of player that I think will do well, I think it will just be the top ball strikers that I think will rise to the top of the leaderboard, because this is the kind of course where it's not like Pinehurst where the players that struggle with putting will fall back even if their ball striking is great. I
Right.
think everybody will be able to make putts on these type of greens. Kind of slower, a little bit more flat, a little bit more obvious breaks. Um, so I think guys that would historically struggle with the putter but are great ball striking wise, I think may thrive in this type of environment.
I would agree with that. A couple storylines let's get into really fast before we hit our player draft around the 20-minute mark of this podcast. I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's the public perception of Bryson DeChambeau in this particular season. Because I remember, what was it, about 2 years ago when DeChambeau bolted for Live. I remember a lot of people who couldn't wait to see him go, just because at that point in time, to some people, for different reasons, he was somewhat unlikable in certain senses. And now,
Yeah.
I think you look at what's happened over the last 3 to 4 months, especially in this particular fantastic run of golf that he's playing right now. I think, what's the saying? Like the heart grows fonder with distance or something like that. I think that's kind of what's happened here with Bryson DeChambeau. Golf, I think, needs that kind of, I don't know if you want to call him a villain or whatever it is, like that.
That type of figure.
Yeah, that type of figure in the
Star
sport.
power.
Star power. And I think people really missed him looking back on it. And I just want to get your thoughts on how he's kind of viewed right now.
Yeah, man. I think his YouTube channel has absolutely played a part in it. I think his YouTube channel is fantastic.
Yep.
He does a lot of creative stuff on there, like stuff that you would never really see a PJ world class player do. Like he's doing like scrambles with people and stuff like that. I think he's just become a little bit more personable as well. I mean, even like little things like, um, you know, not even interacting with fans, but just like the little thing of just having a dispute with the tour about what exactly can go in a yardage book. That was a huge story at the time, and that was actually one of the reasons he ended up leaving the PGA Tour, because he was so distraught about how that exchange went. So I think you got to give credit to him for. I think he would even tell you he's more mature now,
Yep.
and I think it's just. I think you're right. I think maybe the distance did help people come around on him.
And by the way, to your point, if you happen to have a subscription to The Athletic, there was a great article a couple days ago about the new like sensation that is YouTube golf. Um, you probably read it or at least read some of it. I read it. Highly recommend it. It was really good work. But
Definitely
yeah,
will.
I think I mean, you've seen the past, I think, two majors where he's been in contention on Sundays. Not a lot of golfers are stopping in the middle of their round to high five the gallery on a Sunday when they are contending. They're locked in, they're focused on what they need to do. And he's kind of become this guy who is embracing every single cheer and roar that he's getting from the crowd. He's
Yeah,
really
he's even like
embracing.
looking at the camera and stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's
he's
it's
embracing.
great for golf. It's fantastic for golf. A little bit
He's
of
in
showmanship.
Right, exactly. Golf needs it, and he's providing it. And I think that's why the people who didn't like him in the past, are now warming back up to him. I even have people that I know who are kind of the same way. Um, so Bryson's a big story, and we may or may not talk about him more in our player draft. Um, we'll talk a lot. I'm assuming about Scotty Scheffler. So we'll put that aside for right now. We know what that conversation is all about. Um, but I think it was a week or two ago that Keegan Bradley got announced as
Right.
Ryder Cup captain. And as a big Ryder Cup enthusiast yourself, I wanted to get your opinions on that.
I was a little bit surprised when it came out. He's a very young captain. I think he's still in his 30s. And he was very close to being on that team last time around in Rome. So I think it's good on Keegan just because he was probably just like, I'll be involved in any way that I can. And I think the passion that he's going to bring to it is going to be good for us. Definitely. I think the whole um, like fraternity brothers thing that Zach Johnson had going. I mean, that was a disgrace, man. I really hated that type of dynamic. Um, and I don't think Keegan's going to let that fly. He's going to get the best players available for that moment, and players that are in the best form at that time, regardless of names or anything like that. And there's a lot of young players that haven't gotten an opportunity because of things like what Zach Johnson was doing by picking a Jordan Speed, a Justin Thomas, guys like that.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree that I think everyone pretty much acknowledges that the selection kind of did come out of nowhere, because I think it had been kind of broadly assumed that it would be Tiger that may or would become eventually the captain and take over in 2025. But I think you're right. Right now, Keegan Bradley, I believe, is a top 20 player in the world. I think he's ranked 19th right now. Um, and we know what happened back, uh, the situation with Zach Johnson last year. But I think uh, I think he'll be good. Uh, I don't really have much else to say on that issue, really, at this moment in time.
One thing,
Um,
one thing I'll say before we move on is,
uh-huh,
it's not against the rules to pick yourself. So
right,
let's not rule that out too.
exactly. Um, Trying to think of anything else. Do you think it's worth talking about Tiger and Phil, or do you think we can just kind of?
Um,
Do you have anything to say on Tiger or Phil at
well,
this?
on the Tiger front, I do think his comments during his
Yeah,
presser were very interesting.
yeah,
Um, he addressed some of the criticism from Colin Montgomery, one of his
yeah,
former rivals, I guess. Montgomery had came out and said, "Oh, like why is he playing? He should retire." Blah blah blah. There's no way he's gonna win. And Tiger, he kind of fired back a little bit,
Right.
um, and as he should, I think. And then the comment about him believing that he can win. I mean, that's just who Tiger is. Like, he's never gonna say that he would go to a tournament not to win. And that's never gonna change. That's what makes him Tiger.
Yeah. Certainly was interesting. It grabbed some headlines. Um, you know, I can kind of see it from both sides. They were talking about this on the First Cut podcast, which is a um, part of the CBS Sports network with Rick Gaiman, Kyle Porter, and a bunch of those guys that know their stuff. They were talking about the comments, and Kyle Porter, who I very much have a lot of. I don't want to I have
Respect
respect
for.
for him, but
Yeah.
also he knows his stuff.
Right.
He's well respected within the golf media. Um, kind of just said, and I kind of agree with this. Like, I can kind of see. I think where a lot of people maybe got upset or were kind of triggered by Montgomery's comments is because I feel like I don't know the exact quote, but it felt like he was kind of implying, if he didn't say it outwardly, that Tiger should retire.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some people got a little,
Up in arms. Yeah.
up in arms about it, which is fair. I don't think I would go as far as to say Tiger needs to retire. I
Yeah.
think the way he's wired, which you're right, is never going to change, is he's always going to think he can win after what he did. I know it was at this point, 5 years ago almost at the
Yeah. Crazy.
Masters. But after what all he's gone through in his career and what he did at that 2019 Masters, he's still going after what he went through with the car accident. He's going to believe that he can win. And even if people don't truly believe that at this point in his career, I think the way he's wired, he just likes the challenge. That's just the way he's always going to be. And so I think both sides I can kind of see. But what I will say is on Colin Monty's side, I think they were calling him. The calls to retire, I think, should be, I don't know that that's completely fair right now, even if
Yeah.
you don't think he's going to ever win again.
Yeah.
Um, but Tiger has a point. Like, I've won 15 majors. I'm, if not the greatest
Three-time
player in the
champ.
history
Yeah.
of golf, I'm right there with Jack Nicklaus. Um, I have the right to be confident in myself. So
Absolutely.
that was
Yeah.
that. Anything else on the storyline front you want to potentially address before we get into our player draft?
Um, I will say that I do think John Rahm's season is
Yep.
one I don't think we've addressed up to this point in the year.
Not much. Not much.
He has had an interesting season. Um he in the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, was I think top 5 in strokes gained tee to green. And this year in the majors, he's been in the negative on strokes gained. So he's losing strokes on the field tee to green. So it's very interesting. I think it's just a slump, but it's also interesting that it's lasted the entirety of the season as well. So
Yeah.
it's something to think about.
Yeah, his best finish at a major championship this year is tied 45th,
Yeah.
which isn't what we would have thought about John Rahm just a year ago when he was dominating the sport pretty much. He kind of started last year, I believe it was, kind of in the way that Scotty Scheffler started this year. He was on that path.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And then he won the
and
Masters.
yeah, and he won the Masters and he was winning big tournaments. and then the whole, I think it was the COVID thing happened. Um, and he was good, like really good last year. That's why people came into this year saying he's a bone, like he's right there with Scotty and Rory. Those are the three best players in the world. And some people still actually believe that when all those guys are at their best. I probably would agree with that.
Yeah, I think
Although I think you could probably maybe at this point loop Bryson into that conversation.
maybe even Xander as well
Right.
to a certain
Um,
extent.
I think a lot has gone into it. You know, he has the lesion in his left foot, so he's not necessarily fully healthy right now. But he has struggled, no doubt, and it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of salvage some of the bad vibes I think that are around him right now.
Yeah.
Um, this week, we will have to find out. Let's go ahead and jump right into our player draft. I think we're at the point now where
Yep. Hop right
we can
into this thing.
we can do that, and if storylines do come up along the way, we can absolutely address them.
Right.
So I will share my screen. This is so let's go ahead and do a coin flip to decide who gets the first pick.
All right. I will do that. All right. Do you choose heads or tails?
I'll go tails.
All right. All right. It is tails. Do you want the first pick?
I will take the first pick.
All right. Yeah, I would assume so. And it is a snake draft, by the way, for all of you who aren't aware of that.
It is a snake draft. Um, and just like we've said before, I'm going to take Scotty Scheffler. And
Yeah.
I don't know that I need to really go much further than that. I won't waste much time. I think there are questions, though, fair or unfair, about what it will mean. Well, number one, what it will mean if he wins this week. I think he goes from having a top 10 season all time to like potentially a top 3 or 4 season of all time. It would put him in an
Yeah.
absolutely another stratosphere if he were to win this week. Um, but then number two, I think some people have been kind of talking about, you know, would his major championship season kind of be underwhelming to a certain extent if he doesn't win another one?
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know that I would necessarily go that far
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
because he's been in contention, but and there's been a lot of stuff that's happened, including the arrest at Valhalla at the PGA Championship. He's just been like an automatic top 10, top 20 finisher for the most part. And so
Yeah.
that's really all that needs to be said there. I'm interested out of the rest of those guys, though, who you decide to go with.
Yeah, and I will say this real quick on Scotty. It's like even on his bad weeks, nothing actually changes about his game. It's just that he putted so bad that it got him out of contention. It's really incredible, honestly. Pinehurst was a incredibly bad putting week, and it's like Pinehurst is Pinehurst. It's a very difficult course for putting. So, um, for me, I'm gonna put my faith in Rory McIlroy, and um, I read an article earlier today about Hollywood, Ireland, Hollywood, Northern Ireland, I think is what it's called. Rory's hometown, and how they kind of reacted to his finish at the U.S. Open, how it ended. Um, and he said in there that Rory's uncle had sent him a text after it was done about a day later saying, "Get him next time, champ." And then Rory was like, "That just makes me even more motivated to win the Open Championship." And that to me is all I needed to hear. Like, I think he's in a good spot. His swing is good, really, really good right now. And I think even if he doesn't win, he's chalk for a top 10.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, because he's proven that even this year. On to
Yep.
tier 2. And we'll circle back around to tier 1 for our wild card picks. And you are up with our snake format.
Yep. Okay, so tier 2. Oh man, I think this is where I thought I was going to be going with Tyrrell Hatton, but Tyrrell Hatton ended up being in tier 1. He's coming off a third and a first in his last 2 live golf events, so he was definitely on my radar for this spot. But out of these names right here, I think I'm going to go ahead and take Hideki Matsuyama. And really that's just because of what I said earlier about the ball striking. Really, I think for Hideki, it's all about making putts. And statistically, this season has been his best putting year as a pro in a lot of different categories. So if he can just continue to strike the ball well, hit greens in regulation, I trust him to be able to play through the wind, through the conditions, um, and be able to navigate that. He's experienced. So I think he's my best option here.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so for me, in my tier 2 pick, I'm going to go a little bit interesting here. I thought about Patrick Cantlay, who I don't necessarily think maybe he's going to win this week, but I think he's in kind of an underrated, solid form right now.
Yeah.
And I think he's like a almost guarantee on the box for a top 20-ish finish, the way that he's been playing. Obviously, I flirted with Cameron Smith, especially in venues like this
Pause.
in years past. But I'm going to go Robert McIntyre at
Ooh.
30-1. Right now, he's the 16th ranked player in the world. And he's just coming off a win last week, his second of the season at I believe it was the
Scottish Open.
Scottish Open.
His home tournament.
Right. And both of his wins have come outside of the United States, which is interesting. His home country is Scotland. I assume he have very much familiarity with this kind of style of golf. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the weather at these particular events. Maybe it's that, these DP World Tour veterans find these international venues more comfortable than maybe some of the U.S. venues. But he's playing very good golf. He's in good form. I really like watching him. He comes into this major with very good momentum if you believe in such things. I don't know that I would like the utmost believer in momentum, but it does matter to a certain extent. And we saw his 67 in the final round at the Scottish Open, and he's played well in these types of conditions before that we could see this weekend. And so where I do kind of worry is he hasn't really consistently performed as well as he has in his 2 wins. But I think he has proved that when he's in form, he can compete with some of the world's best. And so I'll bet on the fact that he'll carry some of the momentum from his win into this week, and he'll have a good week. So I'll go Robert McIntyre for my tier 2.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, and to your point about momentum, by the way, I believe in it too. I think I would probably believe in it a little bit more than you do, but at the same time, though, it's like golf is weird, and you could just find it just out of your pocket, seemingly. So it is a little bit funky that way.
yeah. I'm not saying I don't believe in it, but
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was just saying I probably believe in it a little bit more than you. Never mind. It's all right.
I don't put all my stock into it.
Yeah.
But year 3, you know, Aaron Rye is actually a guy I've heard a lot about lately.
Hmm.
I don't know that I'm going to go that direction. Um, you see a lot of interesting names. You see last year's champion, um, Brian Harmon, in this tier. Um, I think I'm going to go. See, the hard thing is like I don't know the form of a lot of these guys that are on live. Um,
Yeah, that's what makes it tough.
that is what.
Song J M is in decent form. Adam Scott's in great form. He just finished second this past week.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I'm kind of between Adam Scott and Joaquin Neiman, but I'll go. I think I'll go Adam Scott. Um,
yeah,
he's
good
got
pick.
he's in solid form. Um, he seems to have been very solid in majors this year, just from what I can remember. Um, and I think he has that kind of game where he's kind of steady, level headed. I think he's veteran enough. He's been in a lot of these championships to know how to work through these conditions. Um, and so I think he'll continue to play some good golf and have a good week. And that's really what I'm counting on at this point in the draft. So I'll go
Right,
Adam Scott.
exactly. And uh, Scott, it usually comes down with the putter for him, and I think his last two events, I think he led the field in strokes gained putting, and he just put a new putter in the bag. I think it's a lab putter. It's called like I think it stands for lie angle balance, and I've been seeing them pop up more and more and more on tour here lately. It's been taking over the tour. Okay, so
Okay, so you're up with tier 3 and tier 4.
yep. Okay, so tier three. I had my player in mind. I'm taking Cam Young. Um,
Huh?
I was really hoping you weren't going to take him, and because I was just crossing my fingers, just because he's been in fantastic form here recently. Um, I think two top tens in majors this year so far. I think at the Masters in the U.S. Open. Don't quote me on that. It was one of those. Um, and then his ball striking is absolutely fantastic, and that continues my trend of picking elite ball strikers.
Okay. What about tier 4?
Tier four, uh, it's interesting seeing Max Homa down here, number 15 ranked player in the world. Um, but I don't think I'm going to go in that direction. I think for this pick, hmm, I'm going to take Alex Noren, um, another really good ball striker. Um, he's been on the tour for on the PGA Tour for a few years now, but this year he's been playing a lot more often on the DP World Tour. So people may not be as familiar with him, but he's another fantastic ball striker. I love his putting stroke as well. He's been putting with the cross hand grip, and it's been really working for him here recently. And I think, you know, he's a Swedish player, so he can't. I shouldn't say that. Just because you're Swedish doesn't mean you play better in the wind or anything like that. But he definitely does play really well in windy conditions. So,
Okay. I like it. Um, so you went with Cam Young and Alex Noren.
yep.
Okay. Um, for my tier 4 pick, I'm actually gonna go with a guy I've gone with before in Akshay Bhatia. Um,
Okay.
his last two starts have been very good. Uh, they were two top 5 finishes, and in the Rocket Mortgage Classic, his most recent, he missed less than like a 6-foot putt. It was very makeable putt that would have sent him to a playoff.
Right.
So he's playing very well, really over the last month since the Travelers back in June. He ranks 4th among this Open Championship field in total true strokes gained in PGA Tour events this year at 2.77. I like his form. I like what he's done the past month. I think he has some good momentum, as we talked about. And I think there's tons of value. If I was betting him at these odds as the 26th overall ranked player in the world, I think that's some good value. So I'll go Akshay Bhatia for tier 4.
Okay.
And then tier 5. This is really where you just throw the dart at the dartboard. It's interesting. Like, what is even the state of Dustin Johnson right now? I really couldn't even tell you. I'm gonna go with Russell Henley. I just like his game. He usually plays very well. He's very consistent. I think he'll do well this week. Hopefully, it'll be a bonus if he does because it's tier 5. So I'll go Russell Henley.
All right. Can you scroll down a little bit for me?
Yeah.
There was a French player that I had in mind that I haven't seen his name yet.
French player.
Oh, I don't see him. It's okay. Go ahead and scroll back up. I'm gonna let's see. I think for my pick, I'm gonna take. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take Abraham Answer in that tier 6.
Okay.
You haven't seen his name a lot since he's moved over to Live, but he is, or when he was playing on tour, a very consistent high finisher. And he got as high as top 20 in the world as well. I think having to have, qualified for this event through all of the qualifiers, he is in good form. And I also just really like him as a player. I think he's a very likable guy. I've been a fan of his for a while, so I'm going to take a chance on him. Go with him.
Okay. So I believe the way this works is we circle back around to the wild card.
Yep.
But since I got the first pick originally, you get the first wild card pick. That's the way we've done it in the past. So you go ahead and make your wild card selection.
Ooh, yeah.
Top 2 are off the board, but everyone else is available.
Yep. Let me run y'all through my thought process here. So Colin Morikawa has been in really, really good form recently.
Yep.
Same with Ludwig Oberg. He's been in contention and kind of faltered on Sundays, but he's still finished top 5, top 10 in each of those past few events. And then I look at Tyrrell Hatton, who has also been in good form over on Live, and that makes it tough. And then, of course, Xander Schauffele, who I think in his last 8 majors has finished top 20 every single time, which is absolutely ridiculous, by the way. So it's pretty tough, but I think I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa. I think with his form recently and the year that he's having, he's had a very, very good season. It's just that he hasn't been able to finish off a win. I think, he may have won very early on in the year, but not recently. So I think in order to cap off the season that he's had, I think it would be very fitting for him to walk out of here with his second claret jug. I think he has the right mindset to do it. He's done it before. And I think with how he played at the Scottish Open last week, I think his game is in a really good spot as well.
Love it. And look, if anybody would stand on the table for Colin Morikawa and has been for like the last 3 golf episodes we've done, it's been me.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I have absolutely no arguments against that pick. He would have been one of my top guys. But I think now that he's gone, there's an easy argument you can make for Bryson. I just and look, I'm fine looking stupid if I don't pick him and he does win because
Yeah,
he's just
yeah,
having a fantastic year.
right.
I've seen a lot, the past month or two on Tommy Fleetwood. People are really high on him right now. Terrell Hatton, absolutely. I actually haven't really seen a lot of Victor Hovland lately. Maybe I just haven't been watching enough, but I don't really know what kind of form he's in right now. So I'm going to go Ludwig Aubert. Kind of continuing my trend for tonight, which has been guys that are in pretty good form, have some momentum. Look, he's kind of, as you mentioned, struggled to finish tournaments. I believe he went into the final round of this past weekend Scottish Open with a 2-shot lead, but then finished his final round 3 over par. So
Yeah,
he did not end up winning, but he's the number 4 player in the world coming off a top 5 finish. And he's in really good form right now. I think on Monday, I think it was, I saw someone on Twitter mention that Aubert said that, a swing issue kind of affected his drives during the final round of that Scottish Open. And that he felt he kind of got away with those swings at the beginning of the week, but didn't necessarily on Sunday. Could he win the first major of his career? Absolutely. He's playing some good golf. I think he did go through some kind of knee injury or something
yeah, yeah. I think
earlier
before
this
the
year.
PGA, he withdrew.
Yeah, that may be still affecting him right now to a certain extent, but he just I really like the way he carries himself, and I think with what he's already been able to prove on some of the biggest stages, a second at the Masters, a tied for 12th at the U.S. Open just a month ago. I think he'll play some good golf this week. So
Yeah.
really like those 2 wildcard picks. I think there's a good chance that maybe the winner could come from our 2 wildcard picks this week.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I also do want to say on Ludwig Aubert is interesting storyline is that he's been paired with Bryson DeChambeau and Tom Kim for the first 2 days, and he has been known that as a very fast player and has complained about slow play in the past. So
Yeah,
that'll be very interesting to see how he handles that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Should be an interesting week at Royal Troon. I'm really excited to watch what I can. I know some of the rounds will start probably while I'm asleep, but the important stuff I think we'll get to mostly see. So really excited, and hopefully, whether it's you or me, we can finish off the year with one of us picking the player that actually wins the damn thing.
Right.
Because I think the last time that actually happened was the Masters with
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
with you picking Scotty. So we've done very well, but for the most part,
Not as good as last year.
right. I mean, the best performance so far this year, I believe, was your performance at the PGA. That is absolutely ridiculous. I have all the finishes right now in front of me because I've kept track of all this stuff. And you went 38 under par for your cumulative score at the PGA. You had Rory, Cam Smith, Ben On, Akshay Bhatia, Billy Horschel, and Max Homa, and 5 of the 6 were well under par. The only one who didn't was Akshay Bhatia. That's been the best performance so far this year. You also picked a winner at the PGA. Remember, we've actually done 5 of these golf episodes. We did one for the Memorial Tournament in kind of a little bit of a different format. We did pretty well there. We both picked 2 outright winners, and I did have Morikawa, who I'd been standing on the table for, who finished second at that tournament. But, our 3 other picks, like you had 2 guys who were in the top 15, and my other guy was in the top 30-ish, Justin Thomas. So not too bad. We both had Scotty Scheffler as top 10, and he won the damn thing. So I don't think you would count that, but technically we did pick him in some respect. But anyways, guys, greatly appreciate it. I don't know what the rest of the year looks like from a golf episode standpoint. I'm sure there will be something in the next month or 2.
Maybe something for the maybe Olympic golf event, or maybe the FedEx Cup,
right? Something,
or maybe even the President's Cup. Maybe even the President's Cup. That could be interesting.
There will be some kind of something to finish out the golf season. But until then, and until in like 15 minutes when we do our NFL episode, thank you guys for listening. His name is Emmy Nixon. My name is Michael Ween. Enjoy the 150. Oh, before we go, I did want to ask you a trivia question.
Oh, okay.
That I heard on the podcast that I listened to, that I thought would be worth asking before we go. And it's kind of a wild guess kind of question. So I'm going to give you 3 guesses because it has to do with, your guess is going to be numbers, a number. How many in the history of golf, how many unique major winners have there been? Meaning, how many golfers have ever won at least a singular major championship in the history of golf? For time standpoint, I'll give you 3 guesses.
Okay. Yeah. So
see how close you can get.
Most of these majors started around 1890. So that's 130 years right there. 4 majors per year. Maybe not 1890. I'll say 1910 just to average it out. 1910. So 114 years. 4 years for 4 majors per year. Huh.
How many golfers?
I'm going to say 732.
A little less than that.
Okay.
Actually, a lot less than that. But
okay.
You're it's in like the low hundreds area.
Oh,
if I can give you that. Well, not like low 100s, but like it's below.
Yeah, I know. Like hundreds. Like okay. 376.
You're getting closer, a lot closer than your first guess, but bring it down like 100,
even more. Oh, okay.
150.
308.
No, close. The answer is 233.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unique 233 individuals have won a major championship in the history of golf. I thought that was an interesting fact.
Wow. Yeah, that's way lower than you would think.
Yeah, I know.
But I guess they take breaks. They took breaks for like world wars and stuff. So
right. That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully you guys learned something there. And we'll see you soon for our second episode in a series of episodes for our 2024 NFL previews. Enjoy the Open Championship, ladies and gentlemen. And until 15 minutes from now, peace out.
Peace.